everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome into Bills Weekly here on FingerLakes1.com. I am Paul Russo, joined by Kyle Evans and Jim Sinicropi here as we recap and discuss the Bills dominating, steamrolling, absolute pummeling of the Washington Commanders on Sunday afternoon. We'll also be taking a look at the Week 4 matchup ahead against what has become a high-powered offense of the Miami Dolphins. But first, we want to thank today's sponsor of the podcast, Lil John and Barbie Orthodontics. Dr. Lil John, Dr. Barbie, and their outstanding orthodontic team share a common goal to ensure the overall wellness of each of their patients through their exceptional orthodontic care. You can check out Dr. Odd and Dr. Liz online at liljahnortho.com. So, yeah, Kyle, as you said, just all-around dominance as expected, I guess, in a broader sense. Sure, yeah, I'll allow it. But 37-3 victory propels the Bills to above 500, 2-1 after Week 3 over the Commanders.
Yeah, the crazy thing about this game is it was only 16-0 going into the fourth quarter, and then Sam Howell tried to play, I would say, hero ball, tried to bring the team back, and it certainly didn't work out well. Buffalo's defense played, I think, their best they have in, I would say, years, honestly. Even last year, they didn't have a dominant game like this. Last week against Vegas, they played well defensively, but 9 sacks, forced 5 turnovers, 4 interceptions, pick 6. Everything went well for them.
Yeah, we'll discuss a little bit of that as well. Jim, immediately, I know, what were your thoughts in a way here? Because when we did the predictions, you were pretty much on it last week from the get-go on this game.
Well, what I was most surprised with was how dominant the defense was. I thought that the Redskins could establish a ground game, and they just were totally shut down. The offense really didn't win this game as much as the defense did. At the end of the day, they put up 37 points, but there was a defensive touchdown, and
defense set them up well.
Yeah, and Kyle said, it was 16-0 in the fourth quarter early, and then that was when the Bills started the fourth quarter in scoring position. But yeah, the defense was crazy. They entered the week tied for 7th in the NFL with 4 takeaways. They added 5 on Sunday, so now, depending on what happens in the games tonight, the Eagles are kind of up there. They could be number 1 in the league in takeaways. Pleasant surprise, Terrel Bernard, somebody that we weren't talking about too much preseason, who now leads the team in tackles. In fact, against the Commanders, he had an interception, a fumble recovery, and 2+ sacks in the same game, which is the first time that's happened since 2007, and that was Brian Urlacher. So, yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable. The defense, everybody got involved too. Micah Hyde, Tre'Davious White, A.J. Espinoza, and Bernard all had interceptions. Daquan Jones, Ed Oliver, who, by the way, has looked like the best defensive player in the NFL so far this year. He's just looked so dominant. Floyd, Russo, Bernard, Espinoza all had sacks, and so everybody got involved on the action. And on a team where we're normally talking about the offense was kind of pedestrian. Stephon Diggs got his. Gabe Davis had an early touchdown. James Cook looked good. But the story of the week was the defense.
Yeah, I want to go back to Bernard really quick because, look, I think it was his coming out party, frankly, yesterday. And maybe the first 3 weeks as a whole. 2022 draft pick, 3rd round, 89th overall from Baylor. His stats in 2022, 22 tackles, no sacks. 2023, as you kind of mentioned already, Jim, a little bit, right? 24 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions. Already. He leads the team in tackles already through the first 3 games by 7 over Matt Milano. And the 2 sacks, he's tied for 2nd. In the 2 interceptions, there's a few different Bills who have the 2 interceptions. They're all kind of just knotted up there. But, kind of for a guy who started one game last year, he appeared at every game, but started one game last year, and now has kind of found this niche in this defense at the linebacking spot where there were question marks, admittedly, a little bit about kind of what this Bills defense was going to be like, right? some of the vets walk, allow the young guys to step up. And at the moment, led by Bernard, they're kind of doing that right now.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the biggest, I would say actually maybe the biggest question marks coming into the year. Tremaine Edmonds left in free agency. The Bills weren't going to give him the money he wanted. So they were trying to just fill in that number 2 linebacker spot in-house instead of going out in free agency and signing another big name, which a lot of fans thought they should have done. And 3 weeks in, now we're calling Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott probably geniuses because look at how well he's playing. He leads the team in several categories, and I think he'll continue to play well. And even if he doesn't play it well, Matt Milano's an all-pro player. So if he has a little bad game, Matt Milano's there to clean it up. So, yeah, I think this is great to see. Obviously, Miami's going to be much more tough next week, especially in open space with the speed they have.
Yeah, that'll be a bigger test for sure, for the Bills next week. But in that regard, they've played the Jets, the Raiders, and the Commanders this year, and they're 2-1. They're not 3-0 like the Dolphins, like the who's the other 49ers, the Eagles. Those teams are 3. Well, the Eagles got to win tonight to get to 3-0.
Still hard to believe they lost to that Jets team.
Oh yeah, as bad
really
as they
is.
looked, and that's like a little bit of a red flag, honestly. Like that, even though they looked so great the last 2 weeks, just got to wonder what happened that game. But going into the season, everybody was talking about the Dolphins maybe unseating Buffalo in the AFC East, and we're going to get a early look at that, and both teams coming in hot. So, although the Bills aren't coming in as hot as the Dolphins, who scored 70 points. My goodness.
No, I mean, what, more or less tying the modern record of NFL scoring? I mean, I know.
The most yards since
Right.
1951 in a game. 700 and something total yards.
I mean,
What was it, like 6 different players with a touchdown and 2 with multiple?
yeah.
Raheem Mostert had 4?
Raheem
Yeah.
Raheem had
A-Chain
4,
had 2.
and A-Chain had, I think, 4 total. Is something
4
like
touchdowns?
that. Was Mostert the one with 4 total?
Yeah.
Then
Yeah,
A-Chain had
Mostert
2.
4.
And then, the
Yeah.
other guy had 2. Yeah, ridiculous numbers. Like, literally like Madden video game numbers.
And they ran it, too.
Right.
And no Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, Waddle was out, too. Wow, yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's going to be a big test next week.
You know who the backup was too, who threw that final touchdown for Miami? Mike White.
Oh, was it?
So this just kind of channeling a little bit more AFC East chaos into the fold there a little bit.
But in addition to the defense being so great, I think that the offensive line deserves a lot of credit because heading into the week, they were talking about how the Washington had one of the best defensive lines and pass rushes, and Allen didn't get touched all day, and they really dominated that side of the matchup with Washington. And with all that being said, like I said, the offense didn't do anything great. They didn't put up any great numbers. It was mostly a defensive deal, but the offensive line held their own. And then you got to give credit to Tyler Bass because, like Kyle said, 16-0 to start the fourth quarter. That was all thanks to Tyler Bass for the most part, who was pretty solid. He's 7 for 7 on the season. He had 3 first-half field goals, and so it's nice to know you got. And one of them was a 54-yarder, so it's good to have obviously good to have a kicker you can rely on. So just another little bonus.
Yeah, I was coming back from Erie, Pennsylvania, so I got to go through Buffalo. So I was listening to it on the radio, and yeah, I mean the first half especially that offense. I mean they would get good field position right for the most part, and then I guess the best term might be a little bit of spinning the tires to a certain degree, but look, as we know in this area, special teams matters, and I mean it goes unsaid, but we talked about it going into week 1 a little bit with Bass, but I mean you're right, Jim. All pretty much came down to him in the first half. There, not quite on his own, obviously, but and it wasn't exactly great conditions. It was damp, to put it nicely. I mean, rain was on and off for pretty much all game there. So, and that doesn't make it any more easier on these kickers in the outdoors. So, for for Tyler again to kind of step up and kind of grab it by the horns there, it goes without saying. Let's talk about the offense a little bit deeper. I don't know if I want to do the red flag thing exactly quite yet, but you do bring up a good point, Jim, in the fact that they had the same issues in a way against the Jets. We didn't see it quite as bad against the Raiders, but the first half, struggles against the Commanders a little bit. Got going, obviously, in the second half to some degree, but, Josh Allen, 218 yards, 20 of 32, touchdown, and an interception. Yep. Kyle, you brought that up off air, right? I mean, double coverage, another, to use the archaic term, right, a bit of an arm punt situation, almost in a sense, but kind of reared the head a little bit again for the second time this season where we saw him just more or less throw up a dumb pass in double coverage.
Yeah, I get everyone's point. Yeah, it's an arm punt way down the field, but in the same sense, aren't you concerned that he's still throwing in double coverage? I mean, that ball clearly wasn't going to fit into Gabe Davis, and he still throws it. And it's third down, just throw it away one time. And you're up, I don't know the exact score at that point of the game, but of course they're winning, and you just can't throw it away one time. And then there was a couple other ones through the middle of the field to Stephon Diggs where he's lucky he didn't get picked off. So still some decision-making issues, I would say. And, yeah, he didn't play the final 9 minutes, and it just seemed like he also didn't really need to do much. Yeah, they did stall a few times, going down the field, but there was also some bad penalties mixed in and stuff like that. But, yeah, if you're going to beat this Dolphins team, you can't be throwing the double coverage and not finishing in the red zone and just stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just surprising to be talking so highly about the defense and a little lukewarm on the offense, because that's not kind of what we thought would be the theme of this early season.
Bit of an inverse, if you will, of what we probably were thinking about going into the year anyway. Mentioned right earlier, James Cook got another 98 yards on 15 carries. Kind of to piggyback off of last week, looks like they're going to make him more or less the bell cow running back-wise, outside of probably the bigger situations, right, where you just need a bigger back type situation there. Gabe Davis, 1 reception for 35 yards, but touchdown, so can't complain there. And, you mentioned Diggs, a bit of a home game for him from the DMV area. 8 receptions for 11 yards. Did have a bit of a moment, but I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, 100 and something yards.
Yeah, 111.
111.
Yeah. Bit of a moment for him. I know early on kind of got crumpled up on his hand a little bit on one of his first couple catches there, but I haven't seen anything today about it being a big deal than it already, or wasn't rather, so looks to avoid that.
Yeah, they've been lucky through this early stretch. No major injuries. Right. And to be honest with you, after this Miami game, the schedule's not that difficult until you get into November.
Right.
So actually, you'd have to get to the schedule gets really tough not until late November. I mean, can we talk about this right now?
Yeah, sure.
So we got Miami this week, obviously going to set the tone. If the Bills can win that, they're going to be back in the driver's seat in the AFC East and feel pretty confident heading forward to a stretch of all winnable games. I mean, it kind of sucks. They got to go to London, play Sunday morning against the Jaguars on October 8th, and then they get the Giants at home, on the road at the Patriots, Tampa Bay at home, then on the road at the Bengals, the 0-3 Bengals, then the Broncos, and then the Jets. I mean, that's got to be one of the easier stretches in the NFL. But then, of course, Philadelphia and Kansas City, I think, are next. But, can the Bills run that table? I think the game against Jacksonville and London will be difficult just because of the circumstances. But to me, that makes this Miami game even bigger. You can really set yourself up to be in competition for that home field advantage throughout the AFC Championship if they beat Miami this week.
And if they don't win, they fall 2 games back, and that's a big deal already.
Right.
Because the Dolphins seem like they're probably not going to lose very much this year, based on what they did on the offensive side of things. But again, I also think we should note that Denver's defense is terrible. I mean, they're not going to go to Buffalo and put up 70 this weekend. And look at what New England did. Yeah, New England lost, but they did a pretty good job of defending them. So I get it. Miami's offense is great, but they're not going to just steamroll the Bills. I would think.
No, as a matter of fact, I think that this works out great for the Bills. When you get a game that's that much of a breeze, it's like the next time you face something tough, it would almost feel harder. So it might be good that the Bills get the Dolphins coming off a 70-point output, against Denver.
And Miami put up 36 on the Chargers, and we know how bad their defense is. Look at what they did against the Vikings yesterday.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Miami Dolphins offense is great, but some of these opponents they've played, I mean, they're some of the worst defenses in the league, and the Bills aren't one of the worst defenses in the league. So I think it's going to be a very interesting game.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go back to the schedule thing for just a minute. I thought maybe beginning of the season, like I remember when we were talking about week 1, like I did have some concern about that stretch coming up. But now instead of it being, I think, opponent-wise, it's more just timing of certain things where, you mentioned the trip over to London, right? I mean, that's just kind of tough for everybody in general.
Yeah, I hate when
on either
teams
end.
do that.
Yeah, so, but I mean, yeah, the way you look at it now is, I don't know if this necessarily is like the must-win in the sense of like how we think about it, right? In true, say, do-or-die playoff scenario, but you can't go into this week and lay an egg, in my opinion.
It's a long season, but if they lose to the Dolphins are 4-0,
Right.
and the Bills are 2-2.
Right, and in that sense, it just makes it's an uphill at that point. Obviously you get them back around, and same thing. You got one more with the Jets, and 2 with the Patriots. But it just makes it that much more tougher.
And then, not to mention stepping out of division and looking at the AFC in general, you're going to be further behind the Chiefs. So
That's why that week 1 Jets loss was honestly huge, because then if they did drop it this weekend, it wouldn't be such a climb. Now, if they lose, they're 2-0.
Get Miami again later in the season.
Yeah, and take care of them the second time. So that Jets loss could end up huge at the end of the year.
I do feel like the Jets, as bad as Zach Wilson is, have a good enough personnel, especially on defense, to maybe upset a Miami. And like you say, New England is serviceable still, but yeah, there's not many losses on that Miami schedule.
No, definitely not.
The way they've been playing.
Right. Yeah, let's, I guess, take the look then at week 4 of this matchup. Dolphins at the Bills, 1 p.m. on CBS. Kyle, you brought up to me, we officially have the CBS A crew for that game, the way it sounds, right?
Yeah, Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, and Tracy Wolfson.
So we get to have a couple I don't know Jims floating around in the air for the lexicon on Sunday. So Miami 3-0, we already kind of mentioned, right? 70-20 victory over Denver in week 3. Tua Tagovailoa, 72 for 101 on the year. Eclipsed 1,000 yards, 1,024 yards, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The stats I'm about to read off offensively, right, grain of salt type deal here because of just how massive yesterday was for them. Raheem Mostert, their leading rusher with 41 carries, 240 yards and 6 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, their leading receiver, 25 receptions, 412 yards and 4 touchdowns.
No Jalen Waddle, who sat out with a concussion.
Defensively, the Dolphins, who were thought to have at least a very good defense, it's allowed 385.3 yards average this year, 255 through the air, and 130 on the ground. So this defense for Miami definitely allows for some headway. Your early line out here for the Bills, they're a 2.5-point favorite, 53.5 on the over-under line, in current weather forecast of 62 degrees and partly cloudy. So pretty good conditions at Highmark, at least early on here in the week. And it's going to be quite the game here. It's one of those, I deliberately saved this for me for this part of the conversation, specifically like the over-under. This game gives me low-scoring vibes only because both offenses are just coming off of relatively.
What do you think the over-under will open at?
50, it's at 53.5 right now.
53.5. Yeah, that's a lot of points.
Yeah.
For an NFL game.
It gives me under vibes only because obviously you have Miami coming off the huge week offensively. The Bills got it going obviously in the second half, but we know their offense appears to maybe take a couple of drives to kind of get going at the very least. But yeah, 53.5 after the week like that, kind of the law of averages for me kind of sticks out a little bit there. But yeah, another early season matchup. We've kind of been saying that, right? Early season AFC East matchup like this. And appears to kind of be maybe not truly a coin flip in the eyes of Vegas here, but they kind of see it as being a very tight one possession game.
Yeah, with the Bills, being the home team, I bet you if it was in Miami, Miami would be 2 or 3 point favorites. But yeah, this is every Bills fan should be super excited for this one. More so than the Bills fans, the Dolphins fans should be excited because they've been waiting a long time to be in this position, not only in the division but as talk of Super Bowls and things like that. So, and final 24 hours now removed from that Bills game, Bills win. It feels like, yes, this is the Bills team that we remember. Late last season, is really believed that they could do it, that they could beat the Chiefs, that they could beat the Bengals. So certainly, you got to be happy if you're a Bills fan. But the NFL is so crazy. I mean, it could come crashing down next week. I mentioned all those teams on the Bills' upcoming schedule. They could lose to every single one of them. There is not a single team in the NFL that can't beat another one. If you don't believe that, look at the Arizona Cardinals yesterday.
I was going to say, look at we just talked about them a little bit. Jacksonville goes out and just lays a dud against Houston.
Yeah,
at home.
Two games that you had double-digit favorites lose by double digits.
Yeah.
So that can happen to anybody. It's with a good game plan, the right week. So hold on. Every week's a war, and it's looked great and real easy for the Bills the past 2 weeks, and hopefully it can continue to be like that because that's what it has to be for you to be in that upper echelon of a Super Bowl contender. You got to look like the Eagles and the Chiefs and the 49ers have looked, consistently week in, week out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing about like this early season matchup like this. Like not to be a downer here, right? But like the fact that this game also is going to be played in very favorable football conditions in my mind, right? Like it allows for what I think. Now I'm not saying like the Raiders game wasn't the most raucous atmosphere that Highmark probably has ever had, right? But like going into this game, like with the two teams where they are, division rivalry, everything else, like this is shaping up to be a fantastic early season game like this. Like it closes out what is more or less the quote unquote first quarter of the NFL season, right? Through week 4. Obviously I know there's you play 17 games now and everything, but like kind of still has that feel to it, right? You're a quarter of the way through the season.
It'll be October 1st.
Right. Like this is quite the exclamation point to have for the Bills, and one exclamation point you could potentially write, right, going into the second month of the season. You go in and just get what would frankly just be a huge win given what we've seen out of Miami, what we know the Bills have shown. It'd be huge.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. And this is a little off topic, but I really wish this game was a primetime game.
Right.
It kind of sucks that it's 1 o'clock.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
And I get it. We all thought Aaron Rodgers would be playing, and the Jets and Chiefs get the Sunday night game, so that's going to be awful. It would have been nice to have the Dolphins Bills, but of course we didn't know Aaron Rodgers was going to get hurt, and that would have been a much better game. But yeah,
swap it, NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, geez.
That's a good point. Why not to go out completely off
wish
topic
they
with
could.
that? But how come we have flex for the second half of the year? How come there's no flex for this front half?
all I keep seeing on X is
Former Twitter.
yeah, CBS wouldn't be thrilled if the NFL ripped that game off.
CBS has to broadcast Bears and Broncos this week. I do not care what they think.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Because it's such a huge TV contract, and it would take away a big audience for that game for them. So that's why it wouldn't be possible.
yeah, and Sunday nights on NBC, Thursday nights on Amazon Prime, and Monday nights on E. So you can't really compensate CBS.
But even a 4:25 start, I'd be happy with, because there's only three
Yeah,
four
make it a
4
4
o'clock games.
game, even though it's an
Yeah.
East Coast game. But
It goes into nightfall though.
yeah, well, that'd be great. It would be cool. But it'll be 1 o'clock start, so get up early. I'll get my 18 holes of golf in. Be home by kickoff.
I will be for this week, I will be at a game in person, just not this game. So
What game you going to?
I'll be at Ravens Browns,
Oh,
which would be exciting. Except I don't know what to make of the Ravens, and we got Deshaun Watson throwing the ball backwards out here. So.
Yeah, but I think he played his best game as a Brown yesterday.
Deshaun Watson, yeah.
He had 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnover. That one turnover? They ended up recovering the fumble, didn't they, on that backwards?
Yeah.
Yeah, Watson played great.
So yeah, aside from that dumb decision he did, he didn't turn the ball over, and he threw 2 touchdowns, and they won big. So
The Ravens were pathetic. It was
They're
shocking how many ways they found to not get that game over the finish line. Finally they lost.
You want to talk about a team, though, that you talk about the Bills avoiding the injury bug. Ravens have been bit by it.
Yep.
Bad, though. I mean, they literally. I saw the list yesterday. It's literally like borderline when the Pro Bowl mattered. Like Pro Bowl type team is hurt. Like it's just insane. Anyway, back on track here, I guess to wrap things up. All right, final prediction time for this weekend. I alluded to where I feel at least about this. I definitely think this is going under that 53.5, at least that's opened at, in my mind, only law of average type deal. But give me the home team here. I'm gonna go with the Bills. I think they win 20-16. I think it's going to be really close. I think it's going to be a really great game, and I think I think it's a little bit of a smash mouth, kind of like old school North or East Coast style football game.
Yeah, I see it totally different. I think it will be a shootout. I think that you can't contain Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle will be back, so they'll have to now contend with him too. The multiple threats out of the backfield for Miami, the good weather, playing on turf. I mean, it all points to me, the Bills will be tested, but you're not going to shut down that offense. So the Bills' offense is going to have to score 30 points to win the game. And I think they will. I think the final score will be Bills 37, Dolphins 33.
I was just trying to think because I didn't really have a set prediction, but I'm gonna make a wild prediction. I'm gonna say Bills win 33-27. But it goes into overtime, and Josh Allen wins his first overtime game.
Look at that. A little side bet action potentially there out of Kyle. Love it.
One last note. Remember, this Buffalo defense has only given up 3 points this week, 10 points last week, and 22 against the Jets, but that one of them was an overtime punt return.
Right.
So, I mean, the Bills' defense has been unbelievable in preventing scoring through the first 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And so we talked about law of averages earlier.
That's a good point.
I think it's going to swing back, to get to a more reasonable number when Miami putting up some points at Highmark, and Josh Allen and that offense is going to have to match them.
That's a good point. Let's hope nobody else falls in a pit this weekend either there. Although the Bills are 1-0 when the guy falls in a pit.
If you're going to the Bills game, don't get into fights. What's up with all the fights?
There's been so many.
I mean, these people are idiots. You're going to a football game. People are
NFL
bringing
period
kids
this year,
and they're making stupid decisions that are going to affect the rest of their lives. People are getting permanently injured. People are getting arrested.
Did you see that headbutt? What was it, in Cincinnati?
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Like
Idiot.
this,
That
you get
guy
arrested
should go to prison for 3 years.
Yep.
Well, the guy, I don't know what's going to make of it, but the guy who died at the Patriots game.
Yeah, I mean, people are getting killed.
Yeah.
So Bills fans, especially our friends from around here that are making that drive down the thruway, don't be idiots.
Maybe lay off the alcohol a little bit, too. I mean, some of these guys are drunk.
If you can handle it, drink. But if you can't, and that's going to be the outcome, then maybe you shouldn't be drinking.
Some of them are drunk before the game starts.
Oh, God, yeah.
Jeez.
God, yeah.
They don't even know what's going on in the game. They go in, they pay all the money, and they don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it is crazy. And then, but like I say, then get into a fight with somebody that's wearing a Dolphins jersey just because they're coming, to see their team play. I mean, it is just crazy. And maybe you see it more now because of TikTok and everything, but it seems like every week there's 2 or 3 incidents, not only in football but in baseball stadiums.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. I mean, who are these freaking idiots who want to get into a fight at a game?
Yeah, you're a road fan cheering for your team, and then you get beat up because you're cheering in their stadium.
Yeah, right.
It's like, you paid money to go, you can do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of stupid if you're a fan of a team to go in, I like fandom of fans of teams. I appreciate passion, and especially if it's your local team, your hometown team. But at the end of the day, it's a football game. It has nothing to do with you. You can't. So many people identify with their team to the point where it becomes a big part of their identity, and then they feel personally affronted when they see someone with
Right.
a Jets or Dolphins jersey on. I just think it's crazy. Like, check yourself, everybody, before you go to the game this weekend.
Agreed. Yeah. I believe the term is, and this is something that take from where I initially heard this from NASCAR, is those people are not fans. They're idiots. So,
Right.
But, yeah, be smart out there at the end of the day.
The Commanders didn't have that problem yesterday because their fans all left.
Yeah.
Well, I'd leave
Sorry,
too.
I had to throw in that.
I'd
shot.
leave too if we were witnessing that.
Remember that game was sold out, and what did they do? Honored their legends.
That was quote unquote homecoming weekend or whatever.
Jeez,
for them,
Sam
too.
Howell got exposed.
Yeah, and that's another part of it too. The evaluating the performance. The Bills are going against an inexperienced quarterback and bad weather. Week one they thought they were going against Aaron Rodgers. They went against Zach Wilson, Jimmy G. For Las Vegas, who's a fine quarterback, but they haven't. This defense has been so dominant, has not faced the lights of Tua, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, and A-Chain, who's going to be a huge star in
Track
this league.
star. Yeah.
They need to defend like New England did. Just don't let Tyreek Hill beat you downfield like Denver did the entire game.
Yeah,
Let the stuff stay in front.
Yep.
And force them to field goals and try to hold them out of the end zone. But it's easier said than done. So we'll
and
see
hope
how
that
it
you
goes.
can cause a turnover or two. Like the longer it takes Dolphins to get down the field and score, also the more time you have to maybe make a game-changing defensive play. But if you come out and on 2nd and 6 they break off 60 yards to Tyreek Hill, that's not going to.
Very good point. I forgot to mention that, but the Bills, time of possession is very big right now.
They had some long drives.
To me, it's an underrated element of their offense right now. Is the fact that they've been going and they've been getting 9+ minute
Want to know why?
drives
They're
out.
running the ball better. Think about it that way. They're not getting these incompletions by throwing it 100 times a game.
Are you saying that I was right about something? Because that's
Just
what
more
it kinda
balanced.
sounds like.
Yep, more balance, which is nice because when it's not clicking, they can get on and off the field so fast that hurts the defense. So, yep, really the jury is out on this team still here through week 3. They're 2-1. Next week's the big one. We're going to learn a lot about the Bills and the Dolphins.
So I think with that being said, we know what our main talking points may potentially be when we reconvene 1 week from today, at this time pretty much. So, alrighty, guys, appreciate you as
Thanks,
always. We got Bills across the board here this weekend once again, so we'll be pulling there. So appreciate everybody for listening and watching. You can find Bills Weekly on FingerLakes1.com, FO1 is a YouTube channel, and all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Amazon Music. We'll be back next Monday. Let's go, Buffalo.